There seems to be a general consensus that success leaves clues, right? That there are patterns of successful people. But I think what many people do not talk about is how that failure also has patterns. There are certain traits that you'd see in almost every single person that has not done anything with their life, every single person that has failed, all right? There are two that I have noted, two very prominent ones. Number one is that they have a strong bond, almost maniacal attachment to making excuses. And then the second is they are all complaining machines. Have you met people that have an excuse for everything? Why didn't you pass your exams? Because the lecturer hates me. Why didn't you get into school? Because Nigeria is tribalistic. Why didn't you start a business? Because business did not favor me. There is always an excuse for everything that they have not succeeded at doing. I was having a conversation with one of my clients, right? So we just gathered at his house, and he lives in a very wealthy island, right? So let me not mention the name. And everybody there is very wealthy and affluent. And then they were almost sounding like, oh, with the way inflation is going, they feel so sad, for this generation. Back in their day, if you made '1 million naira, you'd be able to get a car, you'd be able to get a house and all of that kind of stuff, and they were almost trying to project this kind of pity party towards me, like, young man, you're working so hard, God is going to bless you, try, I feel so sorry about. I said, don't feel, I'm like the least person you should worry about. I said, don't feel sorry for me, right? And they're like, is it that the economy is not affecting you? I'm like, the economic situation is a fact that it is not the best that it could be right now. But then there are certain things that my generation has that your generation did not have. Every generation has the advantages and disadvantages. There are certain things that were possible in your generation that aren't possible in my generation, and in the same way, there are certain things that accrue to my generation that you can only, or you could only have dreamt of, in your generation. And I give them examples. I told them how that, for example, if you made like #1 million naira back in the day, you could get yourself a good car, get yourself a good house and all that kind of stuff. But in my generation, that's not possible because of the increase in inflation. But then there's a global reach that is possible in my generation that they could not have dreamt of. Right? There's a time compression that can happen in my generation that they could only wish for. Something that would take them 20 years to accomplish. Someone in my generation can do it in like 3 years. Back in the day, if you needed to start a business, right, and you had any dream whatsoever of making a lot of money, right, you need to do some apprenticeship, you need to get a brick and mortar store, you need to, do like marketing in person and all that. In today's age, you want to start a business and you have good knowledge of advertising. You don't have to run Facebook ads. All you need is a phone, right? A phone that has a good camera. You can go into someone's shop, get goods, right? Start posting on Instagram, start posting on Facebook. You run ads, you make sales. If you know how to go about it. In that same discussion, there was a veteran artist, right? One of Two Faces, set. And he was talking about how that the artists of this generation have a ridiculous advantage because of streaming platforms, and there's a higher chance to make it even as an independent artist than in their time when it was just Obaino, and Kenny's music. If you know music, you understand what I'm talking about, right? So they had their advantages at the time, but today the advantages are greater. In the same way, entrepreneurs have a ridiculous advantage in this era. If you open your eyes and look at what digital media can afford you, if you keep your focus on the disadvantages, because there will always be advantages and disadvantages. If you keep your focus on the disadvantages, right, you're going to become a machine making excuses all the time. And if you keep making excuses, you hardly take action. You never see somebody who makes excuses that knows how to take action. If you're in Nigeria, you already know the situation of the economy. I don't need to give you a lecture on that. However, as bad as it seems, right, if all you do is complain, right, you are not going to do anything with your life. I don't know why I was born in this country. I don't know why I was born in this era. Oh, the people in the older generation have enjoyed their life and they're making us to suffer. All these are complaints, right, which are valid, by the way. But what are you now doing as a result? What are you doing to make your own life better? What are you doing to give yourself other options than just being in Nigeria? Right? So complaining has never solved anything. My brother, there's nothing new under the sun. Complaining is not going to change anything. Create a map for yourself. Create an escape plan. Right? Have your laser focus on the advantages that you have so you can double down on them instead of focusing on the disadvantages, because it's not going to profit anything at the end of the day. Do you understand what I'm saying?